Hi all, my name is Dave Beam and I'm a candidate for a potential job as a consultant, starting out specifically I believe as a procure-to-pay person with also inventory and inventory costing. And it's an area that I know really well, but just one thing to make it crystal clear that yes, I am a detailed hands-on person when it comes to procurement, financials, and inventory. I thought I would do what would absolutely prove it 100% and do a live video. I was going to do it live, but there's no way people could find in their calendar to get together. So I just thought I'd go ahead and just videotape yourself and give us a link and we'll check it out. So I did this really quickly. This was not really something that I planned out very well. I just got access to a test environment last night at 8 p.m. and so I quickly put it together and then quickly put this together. So please don't judge my unprofessional quality of the video, but I just wanted to, like I said, I just wanted to make the point that yes, I am detailed, I'm hands-on, and I'm not just talking high level. Check it out and see what you think. Thanks. Okay, before I get into procurement and inventory, I wanted to show you some of the prereqs that I had to do to just enable me to do this at all. I just know from experience that in order to do anything with procurement, suppliers, and a number of other things, I have to be an employee and I have to have the job buyer and I have to have a number of roles assigned to myself to enable me to do all this functionality. And the way I like to do it when I enter a demo instance like I'm going to do is to create a new user from scratch, because I never know exactly what Oracle's providing in their vision environment. So I like to create a brand new user from scratch. And I think this is helpful because it demonstrates that I know how to do this kind of stuff. So, to get your attention here on the screen, this is a Oracle demo instance that I'm using, and I'm supposed to use a user ID called Lisa Brown or something like that, but instead I created my own user ID. So the first thing I did, well, actually, let me go back. So I look at the seated user is Lisa Jones, and this is the password. And if I say launch pad, go in here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and log out of myself. And then go in as Lisa. The password is that complex password. So the first thing I had to do is take Lisa's user ID and enable it to create a new employee. She did not have any HR role, so I had to create all of the roles for her. And the way I did that was if I go here, and fortunately when Oracle gives you this demo, they give you the all-powerful, if I can find it here, Security Console. When you have Security Console, you can give yourself any role whatsoever. That's the all-powerful. So very, very helpful when you're in a demo environment. So what I did is I looked up Lisa. Was it Lisa Jones? Yeah, Lisa Jones. And she only had a few roles. I think the purpose of Lisa is just to do financials. She only had a few roles, so I had to go into edit, add role, and I needed to pick out all of the human roles that she needed in order to create a new employee. And again, the new employee is absolutely required because you can't be a buyer, you can't mess with suppliers, you can't do a lot of things unless you're an employee and you have the job buyer. So I added all this information to Lisa Jones so that she could create me as an employee. And then once I did that, I was able to, let me get done here, create my own employee named Dave Beam, of course. And once I created my own employee, I gave myself a ton of roles that I would need to do anything in procure to pay and also for inventory and other things. I kind of, when I do this, especially in a demo instance, I kind of load myself up. you'll notice I have things like application administration consultant. What that does is it gives you kind of all powerful access to setup and maintenance. I set myself up as a buyer. Where is that? It was there somewhere. I'm set up as a buyer, so I can do procurement activity. Also set myself as an accountant in case I have time to show you how it flows to the GL. I also set myself up as a security manager, so I have full access to all functionality and so on. So these are just a few configuration prereqs that I have to do just to create a new employee that can demonstrate procurement and inventory. Okay, now that I've created my own user ID and employee record, I need to go ahead and log in as my new employee or my new user ID and set up my user ID so that I can be a buyer. There are still more prereqs that I have to set up. I'll just walk you through that real quick. So I'll log in, I'll hit the launch pad here and make sure I can get in. And again, I'm going to use my new user ID, and I'm going to go to setup and maintenance, switch my functional area to procurement. And one thing nice about cloud, I don't know how familiar you guys all are with cloud, but for the most part, you get a lot of direction from Oracle Cloud by the order in which they're listed here. In other words, to set up procurement, you really have to do these things one at a time, and they're in the correct order. Now, since I'm using an Oracle environment that's based on a company called Vision, a lot of these things are already completed for me, like the enterprise structure, legal structure, financial reporting structure, all that kind of thing. So I can skip those for now, but these are required in order to do that. So I'm going to move forward to users and security, and when I do this, I get just the required tasks, but I need to look at all tasks. And what I'm looking for is I need to become an agent. I don't see it there, so what I'm going to do is go search, because I don't waste my time trying to figure out which tree it's in, because I can just go here and do an all search. I know the name of the responsibility, or the name of the task is agent, so I go procurement agent, manage procurement agents, and I have to set myself. So I know I need to set myself up as an agent, because only if I set myself up as an agent can I be a buyer. So I'm looking at the procurement setups. I'm going to users and security. I think it's there, but I don't see it. So anytime I don't see it and I know exactly what to do, I always just go here and do a search. This is kind of a master search for all tasks. So I know it has the word agent in it. So I just hit agent, and there it is, procurement agent, manage procurement agents. So I have to set myself up in the procurement business units that I want to use. So I'm going to set myself up as an agent for those business units. I've already done that, and here I am. Okay, that's what it does. The next thing I do is I'm going to go back to, like, off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what the next step is, and when that ever happens, I just navigate to the functional area and set up and maintenance. And like I mentioned, one of the nice things is generally these steps are listed in order that they must be completed. So I can go through these things and make sure that I didn't miss any steps. So the step that I left off on was users and security. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at all tasks, and I look at these and I say, oh, sure enough, this is a task that I need to do that I haven't done. Well, even though I have done it, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And here, this is critical, where you have to give yourself access to anything that you're going to have to, anything that you need, basically, including inventory organizations, business units, legal entities, ledgers, all of those things. This is where you enter by username what you have access to. And the reason you have to do that is because you want to give people specifically what they need access to, no more, no less. So that's why I have to go in here, and I'll just show you an example. Dave, username Dave.beam. And I choose the role that I'm talking about. Let's say accounts payable manager, security context was my business unit. And I'm going to say, okay, for me, when I'm using accounts payable, I want to make sure that I get into, I'm able to use, let's see, doesn't really matter which one I choose here. I'll just choose US business unit, save and close, because you can you can have permission to go to multiple business units, multiple ledgers, whatever. So it doesn't hurt. But I've already set myself up in all the other areas that I need access to. So just wanted to show you that. So I've set up everything in users and security, purchasing categories. I don't think I need to do a lot there because, this is basic setups that Oracle would have already done in the setup of Vision, so I don't have to make it personalized. Suppliers, I could go on and on. I'll try and hurry and go to the next step. So that is just a taste of some of the prerequisites that I have to set up just in order to be a buyer and in order to have access to the business unit and everything else that I need to have access to in order to use procure to pay whatsoever. So now let's go ahead and actually get into procure to pay and show you the process flow here. So as you can see, I've got a lot of roles assigned to myself, and I always do that in case I want to look at something else. These are all the roles I have access to. If I say show more, I get a nice picture of everything I have access to. And I'm just going to jump into a purchase order. Now, this is not populated at all, obviously, because it's a demo environment that doesn't have any transactions. But this is a seated dashboard, which is really helpful, and as you can see, it has a lot of great information. And once it's populated, you can click into any of these and get drilling directly into whatever it's referring to. Okay, but let me go ahead and just show you the purchase order process. I'm going to go to orders, create orders, and it asks me what kind of order do I want. I could do a purchase order, I could do a complex PO with work confirmation, a consignment PO, I could do a blanket PO, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to choose a basic purchase order. Here's my procurement BU and the requisition BU. The supplier I'm going to use is Dell. Ship to location is Seattle. Everything's same. I'm the buyer. Create. I'm giving you lots of eye contact. Okay, so it created the PO successfully. And this is not finished, obviously, because I have not indicated what I want to buy. So I'm going to go down here to the lines and well, let me explain something first. So I'm taking all of the defaults because I don't have time to enter it one by one. Otherwise, this is going to be a 2-hour video. So I'm taking all the defaults of procurement BO, the bill to BO, the supplier I chose, bill to, ship to, I'm going to leave alone. And now I'm just going to go directly to the PO lines. So line 1 is the goods. I'm going to use an item. I could skip this and just use an expense item. I'm going to enter a inventory item. And I think I wrote down a list of valid items. CM4205. Okay. CM42 should be all I need to actually enter. CM4. Oh, okay. Advanced. Another trick, if I can't remember what it is, I always say does not contain, and then I choose nonsense, and then do search, and it'll give me whatever. So I'll go ahead and choose Linux. I need a copy of Linux for some reason. Come on, the gerbils are turning the wheels right now. It's in the morning, so the gerbils are tired. Okay, so it went ahead and entered my item number, the description for the item, what it is. I'm going to go ahead and put the quantity. I want 2 copies of it each. The base price is, I have no idea, $50. It's going to Seattle, as it indicated above. That's the default ship to. Schedules, sometimes, I don't know if they've got this set up, but sometimes they have it required that you have to put in a promised delivery date or desired delivery date. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it out just in case. I'm going to say it's due to be delivered in a couple of days, and the distribution line should be automatically filled out based on the information. Where are the distributions? Come on. Okay, here we go. Okay, I stopped the recording for a minute because the item I picked was a bad item. It wasn't set up correctly. So I have the purchase order filled out. I've got all the necessary information. All I need to fill out now is exactly what I'm buying. So I'm going to go ahead and click plus to add a line. So here I can go ahead and enter a inventory item if it's an inventory item, or I can skip that line and put a description if it's an expense item, which doesn't have an inventory item number, like paper or something that is not an inventoryable. But I'm going to go ahead and pick an item, and the one that I found that works is AS 1690, and it's some type of phone. So I'm going to go ahead and buy the phone. I just need quantity of 1. Let's see, how much is a phone these days? I'm going to say $7.99. I'm assuming that's a cheap phone. Click on schedule. Sometimes it's set up so that never mind. Let me just check something here. Columns. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And as soon as I save it, it's going to follow the defaults for the distributions. It uses the the standard rules to create the charge account number and the accrual account number, and also the variance account numbers. And those are all set up through standard setups. And if you have something that's more difficult, you set up what they call tab setups to create any exceptions or something that's specific to the company that isn't handled through standard setups. So it gives you that functionality. So I created that item, and that item is tied to this PO charge account number because it's tied to this business unit, which is 101. And so now I've got a complete purchase order. So now I can go ahead and click save first. And then it's always a good idea to go to actions, validate before you submit it, just to make sure that you don't have any problems. And what it does is it goes through the PO and it makes sure that everything has been filled out correctly. And as you can see, it's not, you must enter a requested date or a promise date. So I need to go down here and enter a requested date, which I believe is requested date. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want it in 2 days, and I'll also put a promise date of the same thing. So, okay, save. I'm going to try and validate it one more time to make sure I don't have any mistakes. And yay, no errors are found. So now I can go ahead and submit my PO. And at this point, it's going to go through the approval process, whatever that approval process may be. I think in this environment, I think it's self-approving. You just wait a few seconds and it eventually approves it. But while we're waiting on it, I'll go to manage orders. And I'll just show you, do a search, and I'll search for everything under my name as a buyer. And here's the purchase order that we just created. And it's waiting to be approved. And actually it was already approved. If it wasn't approved, it would say status in process. So status open means that it's been approved. It's gone through the workflow and saw that there's nobody that's needed to approve it, and it's showing you the status is open. So we've got this PO and it's ready to be sent to the supplier and then received later on. One thing that's interesting that I'll show you is that you've got a predefined purchase order. So I just clicked on view PDF, and here is the predefined purchase order. And it's it's a decent format, and most of the time companies can take this format as a starting point and then just edit it, put your logo, whatever you need, and still use this basic format. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay, so what next? So I've got a PO, and what do I need to show next? Okay, the next thing that typically happens after you create the PO and you send the PO to the supplier is you receive the item from the supplier, and then you have the option to receive it and inspect it, and it will not go into inventory until it's been inspected and approved. Now for this little demo, I'm going to skip the receiving and the inspection because I'm not using a purchase order. So I'm just going to have it two-way matched, which means I don't have to receive it. And just to prove I've got it two-way matched, if you look at the screen, I think it's here somewhere. Now let me do a view all columns. A little slow right now. Okay, yeah, two-way match. So that means that I don't need to receive it in order to pay it. So next step in process will be to set it up as an invoice and payables. So I'll use this purchase order, and I will go to payables. So I leave there, go to payables, which is somewhere around here. There it is. Payables dashboard. Actually, let me go to payables invoices. Okay, and then I'm going to go here, create an invoice. My business unit I know is US1. Supplier I know is Dell. Here's my PO number. And when I have the PO number, it's nice because it... did I already put that PO number in? I guess I did. So I'm going to go back to purchase orders. Manage purchase orders. And just use a different PO. Search. We'll use this instead. So this PO right here. Copy. PO. Okay, that should be good. Okay, so once you put the PO in there, what's nice is that it pre-populates everything, at least at the header level that you need. So I've got that information there. So I create an invoice number. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be letters, words, whatever you want it to be. Whatever the PO number is from the supplier. How much was it? It was $874.91. So we're going to assume that the supplier is great. 91. Paid exactly what they should have. Here's the date of the invoice. Here's the payment terms. Terms date is based on the 18th. I'll save that. And then I'm going to look at the invoice lines. I'm going to match the lines to the... So this is the PO lines, and then I'm going to be looking at the actual invoice, and I'm going to say, yep, that matches perfect. So I go ahead and click on that line. I say apply. Purchase order set for... Okay, so this supplier is set up for self-billing. I made double bill, but of course this is a fake instance, so it's fine. So I'm going to say okay, save, and that's it. So basically, this PO dated 4/18/23. It's got payment terms of net 30, so automatically it will calculate within cash management 30 days from 4/18, and that's when it'll create the check for the payment. All right. What else did I want to show you? Okay, I guess the last thing I wanted to just show you briefly, and I'll be real quick. I don't know how long this video has ended up being, but it is inventory. And I won't get into setting up an inventory organization and setting up a new item with all of the attributes and whatnot. I'll just show you what it looks like so that in case you're not aware of what it looks like, I'll show you. So one thing to keep in mind is that the names have changed since EBS. So inventory, when you go into inventory, that is purely the maintenance of items. So it is the maintenance and movement and how many, count of items that exist. It used to be in EBS, you could actually create the items, or actually that's where you had to go to create the items in inventory and attach it to organizations and all that stuff within the inventory responsibility. But now inventory is just for the maintenance of items and the inventory levels of items. Now, if you want to create new items, you have to go to product information management. I remember when this first came out, I thought that was a dumb name because why doesn't it just say inventory items instead of product information management? But that's where you set up items, and everybody calls it PIM. So here's where you go into item management, and you would normally create an item if you want to do that. What I'll do for the sake of time is just open up an item, an existing item. And an item that I found works pretty good is CM420. System is a bit slow today. I don't know how many people are on this demo environment, but it seems to be slow. So here is a power cord and this number, and you can see that this same item is in different organizations, inventory organizations. I'm going to look at it in organization 001 for no real reason. And here's the power cord, and you've got the item number, the description, and all this stuff is what you would put in when you create a new item. And then you would have, more and more details. I think there's something like 230 attributes, something like that. So here's the overview, specification. This is really important because this is where you indicate what inventory, click on there, how often it gets inventoried, physical attributes of the items. All these things are real important. Structures, just self-explanatory. It's the organization it belongs to, so on and so forth. So what I'll do is also just show you what it looks like to create a new item. Go here, create item. You choose your organization. I'll choose, let's see. Oh well, it doesn't matter. This number item 1, item class. This, I'm not familiar with how they get this set up. I don't think they've got item classes set up for this, but what I can do is I can say create an item copy, put in CM420. I think that'll work. CM420. This may not work because I may have to go into the correct item class. So I won't bother with that. So anyway, to create an item, you basically would go item, create item, and then you would see 230 some attributes that you have the option of filling out. You don't have to fill them all out, but some of them are required. A lot of them aren't, just depending on your functionality. And then after you've done that, the last thing I'll show you is, again, the inventory responsibility now is purely inventory movements and inventory counts. So don't go to inventory thinking that you can create new items there. So inventory items, inventory management, sorry. And I've got my default set at this organization 001, although I gave myself access to a number of organizations. So I'm going to look at this same item, see if we have any in stock. So CM4, let's see where the power cord. So I'm going to view item availability. Whoops. And here it is. So in this inventory organization, I've got 50 on hand. So I can, if I view item availability, I can see that I've got 50 on hands. I'm none of them are blocked, none of them are reserved, so I can transact all 50. I can reserve 50 if I want to. Here's all the information about the item if I want to look at it. I can also change organizations, inventory organizations, and see what other organizations have if I need more than 50. I can then use the inventory module, of course, to move inventory items from inventory org to inventory org with inventory organization transfer. I can change sub-inventories. I can take it out of inventory with a miscellaneous transaction, and I can track movements. I can reserve certain quantities of items if I want to, and of course I can actually create a accounting inventory audit process where I count the items. A lot of people do that once a year. Some people do it all the time. They count items every single day, so that within a year they count everything, and this is where you would do that. So that's just a brief. Hopefully it's brief. It's probably longer than I think it is, but gives you some taste of the level of knowledge that I have, and I'm pretty deep. I like to get into the details. I like to understand exactly what I'm doing, and like I say, when I get into demos and whatnot, I don't like to use the demo itself. I don't like to use the pre-designed, pre-configured user IDs, pre-configured organizations. I like to create everything myself so that I know exactly what I'm doing. That's what I normally do when I get into a test environment. Is I create everything from scratch, no matter what has been set up in in this case Envision. So I hope that gave you some insight as to my knowledge. Sorry, this was probably longer than than you hoped it would be, but I just wanted to be thorough because Donna, one of her concerns when I had the first interview is I was too general in saying that, yep, I know it, and I'm hands-on, and yes, I know it well, but I understand what she's saying. What does that mean, you're hands-on? What does that mean, you know it? It means a lot of things to a lot of people. So, but I hope this level of understanding and hands-on is the level that you're expecting and hoping for and looking for. So, thanks again. Again, it's Dave Beam. Have a good day. Take care.